All right, we are here at the end of the year 2022, and we're ready to start discussing our best and worst of the year.
Yep.
So we're going to go through and we're all going to talk about what from the year, as far as media, movies, TV shows, did we really enjoy? What did we really absolutely loathe and hate and despise?
I've got one.
So who wants to start off?
Let's start with the good, right?
Start with the good.
Well,
I'm down
I
with
have
that.
to just like jump in because I feel like the standout for me this year in films was Everything Everywhere All at Once, directed by Daniels, featuring Michelle Yeoh, and then like also like a great supporting cast. But I mean, there's a lot that can be said about this movie. I think the biggest thing for me is that it had like a lot of heart. It's like it was a super small project with way less budget than any of the super uber popular, blockbusters that came out this year, because I think we can all agree like the film this year was like actually really solid. There was a bunch of good stuff that came out this year, and the fact that Everything Everywhere, kind of small but mighty, stands up amongst them as kind of a standout is really impressive to me. And
I think it's the best
it's
in this year.
It's one of my favorite films of all time for sure, and I can comfortably say that because I watched it 3 times in theaters. I watched it 2 times upon initial release, and then once more when they did the re-release with the foreword from Daniels. And I enjoyed it every time. Every time I'm definitely holding back tears at the end of that film. The first time I watched it, it definitely hit home because it's like people with complicated relationships with like their immigrant mothers. Like I think it definitely is relatable. And so like I just remember walking out of the theater like literally just speechless. I couldn't even like talk to anyone because I was like, dude, I have to get into my car before I break down, and I need to leave this theater because I'm about to like bawl. That's how good it was, and that's how like crazy emotional and how great the dialogue was.
I guess to piggyback onto that, I like that movie as much as you do. Well, maybe not as the extent, but like what I mean by that is like one thing for me, this movie is like what Matrix did to the movie industry, where it's like it felt like the new Matrix. Like that's how I felt. Like this should have been Matrix 4 in my eyes, right? So I really loved it, and then again, like the actions, the stunt work, it's well nailed, it's well paced, it's just there's so much to this movie. So I really, again, I agree with you, it should be a top, not just
to piggyback on your piggyback, it's there's a lot of stories coming out of like the different teams that worked on this film. Costuming, set design, the stunt crew, who I follow on Instagram now because they're local boys, by the way. They like are based in Westminster, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But it's just crazy to see the amount of passion that went into this film, and you can clearly, I don't know how, but you can clearly feel it when you watch the film. You're like, dang, like the people that worked on this project loved working on this project. I don't know, I think it's just the sheer amount of detail and love that went into it. So that for me was like a big one. And I think one thing I kind of like that Matrix comparison. I think Matrix kind of made people really interested in like cyberpunk things. I think if anything, I hope Everything Everywhere makes people interested in like indie type things. And I feel like, we've already kind of seen that. I think we've seen a lot of interest in like smaller indie productions. So I hope it kind of continues that way, because it's a really great trend to support like smaller films.
Yeah.
And even though, it was a great movie, it also was, I think, one of the pivotal movies for the Asian community. I think that's one of the big
of course.
Topics too for this movie. And I think there was an interview where Michelle Yeoh was talking about how the last Asian movie that really did something to the culture of like America and really put Asian people on the map was Joy Luck Club. And she said that she felt that Everything Everywhere could be like one of those types of movies too, like a groundbreaking one. And I really do think it is. It is. I would agree with you. It is like one of the best movies and one of my favorites of this year.
Yeah, agreed.
There's so much to say about it, and it's just like, and it's absurd, and I love absurd things. So it was just off the bat was like, dang, this is special. As soon as I like halfway through the film,
that movie like started conversations between me and some of my friends that are like that were actually deep conversations about like our families and stuff. So like not many movies can do that.
Yeah, know about the trauma you have and like why are you crying?
Yeah, I know. And the subject matter is kind of interesting. I know OC, like, not to call you out, but I know you had took like a little bit of issue with it because it's like maybe not like it doesn't resonate with you because it's a little bit like nihilistic, sure. Like the point of it was like, oh, you know, maybe nothing matters, but it's like love as hard as you can anyways.
Sure.
I think maybe at a different time, maybe that would be like kind of a weird message. But I think right now, post COVID, and they like filmed over COVID too. I think it works now, especially with like a kind of like a weird message like that. So I think the timing was also good as far as like them releasing it like right now in this weird like post-COVID era, because life felt absurd for like a last couple of years. So
because you're right, where the people who are behind this film, definitely you can feel like the love and appreciation that went into creating this film. And so I respect it on so many different levels. But yeah, there was that element of the general worldview of the story that I didn't really resonate with. But that was just a personal thing. I can still appreciate the just how great the film is on its own. So.
But I like including that too, like just kind of like any kind of like gripes people have with it, because like, yeah, sure, it's like it's not perfect either. I mean, it's not groundbreaking in the at least like the universal multiversal storytelling. Like we've all seen it done before, and we've all seen it done to a pretty good standard in other films. And but it's just crazy that that's just like one element of it, like of like a huge, I guess, kind of spectacle of a tale, you know.
It did it better than Doctor Strange.
Yeah, I was about to say,
And it was released before Doctor Strange too.
Yeah.
Did it do better as far as the box office?
Yeah, it did. It did.
No way.
Yes,
really?
It did. Yes, it did.
A24, man. Shouts out to indie film studios.
I'm just gonna mention, we'll sprinkle it here and there, but my worst is Doctor Strange in my opinion.
Oh,
really?
Wow.
Your bottom?
I have
You don't think? Okay, I'm curious.
worse than Men.
That's what I was gonna say. You're worse than Men.
Look, I felt like Doctor Strange 2 was a personal attack to me.
Okay, so there's a difference though.
Because of how much I love Doctor Strange 1.
There's a difference between like the most disappointing because you were expecting big things versus like actually the worst.
Wait, but like it wasn't that bad.
It was bad
Doctor
in my
Strange,
opinion.
Yeah,
I hated
wasn't
it.
that bad.
I hated it.
You
I
hated
thought
it more
Thor
than
was-
me.
Evil
I'm
Wanda
sorry.
was good.
Like the more I sat with that movie, the more I hated it.
Was it the music battle? Was that
No,
No.
that's fine. It's just the whole premise was dumb. The whole multiverse aspect of it was lackluster. The Easter egg was dumb in my opinion. It was cool while it lasted for like 2 minutes, but then they got killed in such
sad.
stupid ways. There's just so much logical issues with like how things were executed.
I did
You're
have
valid.
an issue with like the ending and like how it came to be.
Yeah, okay, you guys can mention
Okay, but yeah.
Men and all those
But
other
it's-
bad ones
well, I
too,
mean,
but like
it's unfair.
for me it's Doctor Strange.
I think this phase 4 has been a huge lull for Marvel, and I think like the rumor is that a lot of these like films where they started working on them and directing them and filming before even the scripts were done, and I think
crazy.
that's kind of I think it was really apparent with like Doctor Strange and like even other projects in the MCU, but I mean we're not gonna shout them out unless we're like really angry about them. I don't care enough to shout out anything phase like
for Doctor
I wasn't
Strange.
that angry about stuff.
Yeah.
Well, actually the shows were really bad, but
No,
But,
not Andor.
No,
oh,
MCU.
but like
Oh,
MCU,
MCU.
the
Yeah.
MCU
Okay.
Not
show.
saying Disney.
Andor's amazing. We'll talk about that later. if we
yeah,
have
we'll
time.
talk about Andor.
But I mean,
we
I
can
don't
do a thing
know.
where it's like best, worst, and then someone else chooses the best.
We did mention Men, and I think we all collectively hit it enough that I think we can talk about it right now.
I'm okay with
man.
it.
Well, I'm still curious how he thinks Doctor Strange is worse than Thor 4.
No, objectively, Thor 4 is worse, but
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Personally, Sam Raimi, if you're watching
Okay,
this,
he's being okay.
How
I'm glad
dare
you
I
you.
did
loved
that.
Sam Raimi's like Spider-Man trilogy, but like Doctor Strange 2 was just not a good movie.
Okay.
I think that's just a token to like
Yeah,
literally
that's
there was
fine.
so many things about the production that were stacked against. I mean,
Yeah, it's hard
against
to-
people that worked on it.
It's hard to blame. It feels weird blaming Sam Raimi for the faults of Doctor Strange, but it feels so right blaming Taika Waititi for the faults of Thor 4.
Why?
I don't know. Maybe it's because it feels like all of the eccentric directorial choices that Taika Waititi does that makes his films great otherwise, he just kind of it felt like he carried it too far in Thor 4, and so it feels like he just ran with his own thing like into the ground.
And it's crazy too because he's also an amazing filmmaker. Like
he is.
And it's
Yeah.
I don't know who to blame.
I was
I don't
slightly
know.
excited for Thor 4, but I was more excited for Doctor Strange 2.
Mm.
I know I was the only one, Crystal. But still, I was excited for it, and it disappointed me so much. Like, to the point where I turned to a friend and was like, I'm sorry. At the end of the movie.
Oh man.
I didn't hate either of them that
Okay.
much.
Yeah,
I don't
me
know.
neither.
They're fine to me.
Thor 4, I was excited because I loved Ragnarok, but like...
Honestly,
But
this is becoming the standard for MCU, so it's like
yeah,
expected.
but at that point, I was just like, I got disappointed by Doctor Strange 2, so I knew what to expect. I was like, it's probably not going to be that great. And then it wasn't that great, so I was like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Wakanda Forever turned it around.
It
A little bit.
It tried.
Yeah.
It did a great job with
Yeah.
what it had.
Yeah.
It shouldn't
I
have
think-
had to do that, but it's okay.
We should
Yeah,
go for another best, though.
Okay,
Does anyone
I
have
think
other-
if we're going off of like superhero films, we have to mention the Batman.
Exactly.
All right.
The Batman.
was so good.
Robert Pattinson.
Yeah.
It was I mean, for a year full of like lackluster MCU movies, the Batman definitely was kind of like the saving grace for, I guess, superhero films because it was an amazing spin on a very recognizable IP, you know? Like DC especially is like, we won't go into it, but it's just like a maelstrom of like
Chaos.
weird announcements and news, and obviously like James Gunn is like turning everything on its head, and really there's a lot of mystery surrounding like how DC is gonna do things, but the Batman is safe, like thank God, because it already was like its own built self-contained universe that was like really interesting and amazing to look at, great visuals, like awesome characters and design of just like the sets and the costumes, and so I don't know, like it did a really good job.
It
To
did.
think
be
we all liked it.
fair, with MCU, they did have Spider-Man before Batman came. So
Did Spider-Man come out this year?
Spider-Man came out last year.
Oh,
but
yeah,
it
we
was
all
really
loved.
close.
Yeah, we all loved it. Who didn't love?
Yeah,
Who didn't love?
my point is, you know, there definitely have been good gems for MCU, but back to Batman, which is the real thing we're talking about.
Batman.
Yes, this movie to me, what I love about this movie was that it felt like because normally if you watch like the animated movies, like they've always been have good stories and they always felt like a Batman movie. So this felt like an animated movie took in live action, and I really love that. An element that they actually brought to Batman is they actually criticized Batman as like Batman is part of this problem, which is something that it's been sort of a commentary in terms of like, yo, why is this guy who's a bat, like, you know, he's actually causing issues. But I'm glad this movie kind of addressed that.
Yeah,
So
we've definitely seen that in like the cartoons and the comics where it's like there wouldn't be a rogues gallery if there wasn't Batman,
yeah,
but like he has to exist to like fight these guys. And
exactly.
yeah, it is like a weird catch-22 situation. So it's cool that they included that, and there was like a lot of nuances to like the Batman storytelling. I mean, and it's like it wasn't like an intergalactic threat. Like it was like good
Yeah.
old-fashioned Gotham street crime
Exactly.
with gangs and like underground seedy nightclubs, and it's like that's what we
Exactly.
want to see because
Yeah.
it looks like the Batman cartoon or like Batman Beyond even.
I do want to say something about that Catch-22 thing. I feel like Batman took up his mantle to stop crime on the normal level first, and then the rogues gallery filled with psychotic people arrived afterwards. So
Yeah.
I don't feel like it was a Catch-22. I feel like Batman had to stop like Falcone and all the other people that are regular bad people,
yeah,
and then those crazy people came later.
maybe more like a domino effect type thing.
Yeah,
But they
yeah.
definitely do explore those themes like in Batman media outside of this film. So it is cool to see like it included and see like
Yeah,
how
not
they
to mention the whole
handled it.
detective aspect that they took seriously.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
in this film.
That was refreshing.
the cast was
Yeah.
great. I loved the Jim Gordon in this one. Like he was like a fun sidekick, more like to Batman this time around.
Yeah, and then Gotham really felt like its own like character, basically.
Gotham
which
felt
is
like
perfect,
Gotham.
Because all these Batman
Yes.
movies, Gotham doesn't feel like Gotham. Like I feel like what are they in New York and they're just like filming it looking like Gotham? No, but this actually felt
Yeah.
like legitly Gotham.
They
so,
definitely
Yeah.
nailed the environment.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it
Absolutely.
wasn't just like a dark pier, like
Yeah,
like a
exactly.
random
Oh,
dark
no.
pier. No, it felt like Gotham. The cast was great. The score was really awesome. I
Yeah.
think like anytime you can like really meme a movie, like right, then I think it's considered a success. Because remember people are like, oh, like Batman catching me like littering, and then it's like they play like the song. It's like blah blah blah, and he's like beating them up.
Yeah.
And I think that's great. Anytime that you can kind of like get people to like even like make jokes about something, to react at all, like you know that it was like
Right.
worthy of being talked about.
Yeah, I just think this film did a really great job with immersion, just making you feel like all the characters were real, the environment was real, the music was great. Like it felt like you were really in the movie.
Yeah. We already did
Which
another video
leads
on
me
it.
to
Yeah.
Avatar, The Way of
Oh.
Water.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I haven't
we're going
watched
to
it yet,
another good one.
So
Yeah.
Is
Okay,
this like,
no
was it the good or
spoilers.
bad?
It was good
As far
for
as
me.
talking about the best movies, we have to mention Avatar: Way of Water.
Yes.
For this year, like just the level of spectacle, and like for me, a lot of the elements of some of my favorite movies are like long sweeping epics,
Mhm.
and spectacle is a big thing, and it has always been a big thing for me personally, is from like childhood. So watching this this film where the focus is on the spectacle was amazing for me, and I absolutely loved it.
I have to say, this film is made to be watched in 3D.
Yep.
Like you have to
100%.
watch it in 3D.
Agree.
It's not the same.
Yeah.
It's definitely not the same.
Because I watched it in both ways, 3D and 3D high frame rate HFR,
Yeah.
or the regular way, which was like the nice like Screen X,
Yeah.
Harkin Cineone
Yeah.
type of thing. 3D is way better.
Yes,
Yeah, I
especially
can
when it does that 60 frame
Yeah.
rate and you're seeing this
Yep.
action, everything
Yeah.
in 3D. It's like
Yeah.
you're playing a fucking video game. You're like, oh my god,
Especially
what's going
like
on?
because I watched the first one in 3D too, and I remember that like 13 years ago.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is amazing. And this world that James Cameron built, the way that everything, like, Awa, like just the world, Pandora, how crazy and magical and how connected you can be with that, it can only be like in 3D.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. I'll do it in
Yes.
3D.
You should
Yes.
probably watch it in like Dolby 3D or IMAX 3D.
IMAX 3D.
If you get motion
yeah.
sick
IMAX
though,
3D.
maybe take like a Dramamine or something. Because during the water scenes, like I was getting sick. Like,
I was good.
I-
I was in it. I was like, I am in the water.
Yeah.
I am one with
Yeah.
the movie.
I think that's just a token to like how immersive it is. So if you do
Like
get
some
seasick,
of the
just
rain scenes with the 3D, you felt like you were in the rain. It was
Dude, watch it in
so
4D.
good.
There you go.
Exactly.
It was
oh yeah,
so
watch it in
good.
4DX
Just
next
like the
time and just get
particles and
soaked.
everything.
Yeah, but it was like the
Mhm.
scenes with nature and seeing like how beautiful he's portraying the world.
Yeah, it's
It
incredible.
was really great.
It's
Storyline, there are definitely some corny parts to it, but overall, I'm really not
Yeah,
mad at
yeah.
this movie.
No spoilers. No
Yeah.
spoilers.
Yeah, I
Definitely,
think people
definitely
watch
spoilers.
it for the graphics, anyways. I mean, I think the biggest
The
gripe
story
with
was
the
a good
first one.
story. The whole criticism is that like it's not a deep story or complex story, but I think it's a good story.
I think a lot was left, I guess, unresolved because we have
There's-
either one or three more Avatar films after these.
Yeah.
I think
thought
it's
it was up to
definitely
5.
going to be more than one.
Okay.
Yeah, because the
Because-
third is filmed, the
yeah.
fourth is filming, right?
Yeah. And they have
Ah.
the third is already like pretty much done, and the this movie has already passed the $1 billion mark. So
Yeah.
It's it's like what
You go,
Transformers
James
couldn't. Yeah, it's what
Yeah.
Transformers couldn't do. But even though
Yeah.
Transformers make a lot of money, like,
They
I
do-
guess
they do make a lot
they
of
make a
money.
lot of money.
But yeah, that definitely is one of the top ones, and it came out more recently.
I like that we are like talking about spectacle, because I feel like the blockbusters this year have been nothing but spectacles, and all the best films that came out this year were spectacles. Like,
Northman to me was a spectacle.
yeah, Northman is definitely like a sleeper hit. Like,
That was
I
that was a
think
good
it
one.
was like a box office, not super successful, but the people that know. Like, it was a
It's
great,
great.
super accurate, like really gritty action, and probably probably the best performance by Alexander Skarsgård.
It was very
Um,
mind-boggling. Like, you had to think about like what he's going through and why he's doing his actions and whatnot.
Yeah, it's based on the story that Hamlet is based on. So it's like,
It
if
made
you're
it
into
weird to
betrayal,
watch Nicole Kidman's AMC
Right
AMC
before-
commercials.
right before you see her
Every
again.
time after watching that movie, I was like, "Oh, you,
you.
Oh.
It's also funny to see because in Big Little Lies, they're like a romantic couple,
Oh.
like Alexander Skarsgård and Nicole Kidman.
Oh, are
But-
they?
Yeah.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, so I was like, well, this is interesting to see them in the film. But
Okay.
definitely for anyone out there who hasn't watched it, like, check it out. I think Robert Eggers, he's the one that
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen it yet, so I'll check it out.
he also did The Lighthouse, and he did The Witch,
The Witch,
right? And so this dude, he's always had like a crazy attention to detail when it comes to timepieces. So it is really cool to see them do this like kind of Nordic era of like Vikings and stuff. So I don't know, it's just like he's definitely underappreciated, but I hope he can still continue to do his thing, because it's always really great.
You mentioned spectacle right now. I feel like Nope was a good movie.
Oh,
Like,
yes.
one of my favorite movies.
Yes.
That film is literally about spectacle.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
our
Yes.
relationship with
Yeah,
spectacles.
that's very true.
that was on
I
my
had to
list.
mention it when you
Yeah,
said it. I was like,
I wrote my list. Nope is definitely like
Yeah.
top of my list of like just like top 5 of like
Yeah.
films that came out this
and
year.
that scene with slight spoiler, I guess, with the UFO
The reveal.
above the house.
Oh,
Yeah.
above the house. Oh, yeah.
That it just
When
like
it started pouring blood,
Yeah.
that scene.
I
Yeah.
still think about that scene sometimes.
It's horrifying. I think the scariest part for me is like slight spoilers, like when they're like the guys are actually getting like eaten by the thing, and then it's just like pure claustrophobia and
yeah.
like confusion, and it's
Yeah.
just like you don't really see much. It leaves a lot to the imagination.
Yeah.
I really love that in film, especially horror, when it's like more up to your imagination. I think Jordan Peele does a really good job of horror and kind of genre bending horror too. So
Yeah.
I don't know. And he had like really good movies to follow up on. Get Out is like one of my favorite films of all time. So I was excited for Nope. And I usually don't get excited for films anymore because I feel like I've been burned by a lot of films I've been excited for. But I was excited for
Batman v
Nope.
Superman.
And I was excited for Nope, and it delivered. And that's really, I mean,
Yeah.
there's nothing more I can say because it was just
While,
so good.
while we're on the genre of horror, we mentioned this earlier, Men.
Oh,
I don't think we discussed this enough quite yet, but I mean, like Christine said, she's okay with it.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
I'm curious to what makes you okay with this movie.
yeah, I want to know.
I really don't hate it as much as you guys. I think it did do a good job portraying like how women feel with the gender men.
That's what you think of us?
You guys are women. You've never been in that situation before. So yeah.
I mean, I have to agree. Like, it was definitely like heavy-handed with the metaphor for sure. I think like
It was a slap in the face, pretty
yeah,
much. Like,
I think like some people don't like that much like hand holding and like metaphorical stuff, but I mean it looked cool too. I mean there was some definitely some suspenseful parts. I can understand like the hate for it for sure. I think the ending is a lot like it's not super gratifying and it's definitely like weird, so I get it. But I mean there's stuff to like about it. I think maybe the thing is like too, if you're like an Ex Machina fan, if you're an Annihilation fan, which are like both incredible
I
films.
love Ex Machina.
This
so much.
this movie's really different, and I
Yeah.
think if you have that expectation of like two amazing films already, Ex Machina, Annihilation. Have you seen Annihilation?
I haven't
Really
yet.
I've
great.
seen Annihilation,
It's like definitely kind of like what,
but
it's not to that level maybe.
I've had even though I saw it, I had no expectations for the movie. I just
Neither.
went in there and watched it
Yeah.
because of our friend. But
Yeah.
but like after watching it, I was just like, this movie literally is like about, in my opinion, like it just sends one message and that's it, and it doesn't even do it in a good way. Like
Yeah.
I
think
had a lot of expectations for the film. I was kind of excited to like go into it and just like
Yeah, Alex
to-
Garland. Yeah.
I was expecting well thought out portrayal of what the message was. Like
Yeah.
I knew what the message was going
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah.
Given the trailers. 'Cause
Exactly.
The trailers made it at least somewhat clear what the message
Yeah.
of the movie was. And so I was like, okay, this could be a really cool, like interesting exploration of
Exactly.
of this aspect of life and the relationship between the two genders.
Yeah.
But I went into it and I was just disappointed with how it came out.
Yeah, to me, I was thinking it was gonna be like the Get Out version of like
Yeah,
gender thing, where it's like
Interesting,
they
yeah.
explain how like, and it would be like nuance how they explain like, okay, this is how why women have trauma for men and all
Right,
that. And
yeah.
I'm not against that aspect. Like
Uh-huh.
any movie you show me a good example why people feel a certain way. Like even movies that are about like, well, why people hate black people. Well, here's our argument, right? I don't have a problem with it. It was just the way it was executed. It was just like. I kind of got the message at the end, but at the same time, it was just executed in a way where there was too many logical leaps, there's too much inconsistencies, so I just couldn't buy into it. And then for me, it just felt with movies that deal with these kind of commentaries, if it's too one-sided and you don't see the other side, and the other side is very like a straw man view of like this kind of thing, that kind of thing, it just kills it for me. It's just like, oh, okay, it's this oversimplification. So that was my biggest issue with the movie. But overall, yeah, I wish it was like a Get Out version of like, okay, this is why Get Out is a reason why white people are scared of. I mean, why black people are scared of white people. This is the reason why women are scared of men. They do a Get Out version. I'm like, okay, I can see where
Yeah,
you're
that
coming
would have been
from.
really
To
cool.
be
Like,
fair,
that was
Get
what I was
Out
thinking.
is a perfect film.
Yeah.
Men is not. There is an argument to be had there for sure. I think it's it could have been done better, but it is true. Like in the shoes of like a woman, a lot of times like a nameless, faceless, just like dude on the street, like you're vigilant because literally you just don't know, and like that it's like a constant like threat, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And it's like it's hard to convey that. It's definitely, I think maybe Alex Garland shouldn't have
Wasn't
been
the
the
right
director.
person.
I don't think
Yeah,
he was
that's
a-
probably the
maybe it
reason.
should have been a
Yeah.
woman.
It
But
should have been a
it
woman.
really-
Again,
I think
blame
that's
the men
absolutely
for
right.
men.
No, but I think
Sorry.
that's absolutely right because I don't know who Alex Garland is beyond Ex Machina, but it felt like a male feminist trying to like
Write this story, and he did.
yeah, and it's like
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
with you, women. Like
Yeah,
let me prove to
he's
you
just so
how much.
pick me.
Yeah.
He's pick me. He's a pick me.
That's what it felt like. I was like, yo,
Like I respect women.
yeah. So
Yeah.
let's
Maybe.
fast forward 10 years when he has allegations.
Oh, God forbid.
I
God
didn't say that.
forbid. I believe in you,
says
Alex
that. Yeah.
Garland.
Heard it here first.
Just make
No,
one
no.
other good movie,
No.
Alex.
Like the issue's real for sure, but the thing is the movie, in my opinion, still sucks. Like
Yeah.
it's not to say anything about the issues, more so the movie just sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not one of my like most hated movies. Like I'm okay with it. It's not.
I think the ending made it one of my most
Okay,
hated.
yes.
Because
the ending
if
is
it was
wild.
just like a bad like representation of the message, then I would have forgotten about it. But that ending,
That's when
I'm
I-
like, what the heck
Yeah.
am I in this theater
It was
for?
like
right
offensive
now?
to
It
you.
was like, what's happening right
No,
now?
it wasn't. It was like why put that in there?
Yeah.
When you already got the message across throughout the whole movie, this dude has to birth all his other
Yeah.
dudes' personalities, and I'm like, what? Why?
And
you already got it
felt
across.
weird.
You don't need to do it again.
You mentioned the whole Get Out thing, and it felt weird. The only other man, because all the men in this movie were the same,
Yeah.
except for the boyfriend,
Yeah.
as being a black man, and I feel like there was kind of a weird racial relationship there that was not addressed in the whole messaging of the movie, and I felt like
What do you mean?
I don't want to have to
No, I'm
like
seriously.
rehash
I'm
all of it.
Seriously.
But
I'm confused, honestly.
So the whole message of that, especially that ending part where it was like, this is how you have this evolution of all of this toxic masculine traits, and the epitome of that was the black man at the end.
I think. Okay, I see where there's. I guess there's one angle for that. So for me, what I got from that was that basically it's like the trauma. Why she has trauma comes from this dude. So the dude is kind
Was
of
a personal.
Yeah, that was the whole trauma.
That
so
was
that was
part
kind
of
of
it
illusion.
too. That was
and
part
then
of it too. But I think that there was an oversight in representing him.
Like they should have addressed.
Yeah,
some
it goes back.
interracial
It goes back to
stuff.
any man.
Any
Any man was
you're
represented
right.
in a way where it's just
You're
like
right. You
a
are right.
straw
But I
man,
think that
everything. You're right.
You're right. But I think that in a movie where it is so everything is so symbolic, for them to have that aspect and have it be like, oh no, it's just a guy. It's like, no, you everything else in this movie is extremely symbolic. So you have to address the fact
fair.
that
Okay.
That's
yeah.
fair.
I see what you're saying.
That's fair.
you intentionally casted this character in this way.
yeah.
There's got to be a reason behind it. So that kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
I understand, but to the movie's defense, despite that I hate this movie, I did think that the way they addressed it at the end, because at the moment she talks to him, oh, why you do this? And he said it was all because of love, which is basically, it's like the epiphany of like, why does these toxic men do all these toxic things? And the reality is just, they're
Yeah.
coming from a place of love, but not understanding how their way of loving is hurting people. So I think that was what they, again,
I
that's
feel
what
like
they
that
were.
might be
That's
giving
what they were.
too much.
No, I feel, no, trust me.
That's
I think that's what
an
they're
interesting
trying.
take. But
No, I think that's what they're trying to say. But however, obviously the way they came to that conclusion just didn't come off. It just came really weird.
I think the
Sure.
fact that we all kind of have different views on it kind of also kind of
Yeah.
lends to the fact that it was a little too open-ended, because that is an interesting take in my opinion. I think I view it a little differently, and then I think maybe like the rest of you guys view it also differently, and I think
I just hate it.
yeah, if there's
We could move on from this topic.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I think we can
Yeah,
move on.
I don't
know,
want to
it's
think
just-
about it anymore.
well, now I'm thinking, now that I am thinking, I'm like, that's interesting. Like I might give it another chance and rewatch it.
No.
'cause
No, don't.
No,
No,
I
no,
might.
You
There's
should
some-
watch something else.
There's some
that's
cool
worth it.
cinematography moments, and the music's really
There
good
is,
in
but
it.
again-
I like the score. in it.
Again, I feel like it should have been written by a woman if it's a topic about what
Yeah.
women are going through.
yeah.
But I'm gonna move on from this topic.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you, Christine.
With the
Speaking of women, my favorite movie this year was The Woman King.
Ooh, good transition.
that's a good one. That's a good one.
That was by far the most fun that I had in the movie theater. Was The Woman King.
Yes.
Viola Davis. Oh my God, she's such a force.
The real Wakanda forever.
Goosebumps.
Yeah.
Goosebumps.
Oh man, and that movie has a sort of twist in it that I felt was done so well.
Exactly.
It was so good.
Perfect.
I think there was only like one shortcoming in the film with the whole
The
romance.
romantic element.
Yeah.
But they were still able to do that in a way which wasn't stereotypical and normal. So I
It
respected
did give
that.
me a little Pocahontas
Yeah.
vibe,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, I would say for me a little shortcoming, and I feel like they kind of, it's not a bad shortcoming, but it's like they kind of over sensationalize at the end when they were like, you know, basically they were saving the girl and they're like killing basically the white people. I felt like they were getting a little. There was a little bit where they overdid it, where
Of,
it was
like,
like
indulging in
It's
the
like,
violence.
okay, we know he's dead here, but then we got to make sure we slice the last way. Like, that's right, we're taking down the white man, and, you know. And I saw people clapping too, so it was like I felt it was a little
Okay.
bit. That part is where I a little bit oversynthesized, but overall, amazing movie. Again,
Yeah.
I love everything of it, especially being
The
an
fight
African
choreography,
person.
yes. Oh man, the
Yeah.
fight choreography
Well
in that movie
done.
was so good. And yeah, one of the things that I felt like as they were walking through the African village, it just felt so authentic.
Yeah.
In that moment was the feeling that I had. And so yeah, I really enjoyed it.
And one thing I really want to talk about with Woman King and why I really like love this movie really well is like they do the whole women warrior thing right. Because I feel like a lot of times when they do this trope where we want like a strong woman, she's usually like this girl who has no flaws or she doesn't have to go any struggle. She just earns power.
Oh, yeah,
But in
yeah.
this movie, we really see them go through struggles,
Yeah.
become better versions of themselves to earn that power.
They felt like real people.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why these are like, this is where it's done right.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah, everything feels earned for sure. Like the training montages were great. Like you really get to like get to know the younger characters really well, and it's I don't know that version of sisterhood was like really cool to see. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah, they explained like the reasons they did things and why they have this tradition and whatnot. It was explained very well, and even from like this is not my culture, but I appreciated it, and it made me like love it, and I'm so glad that I was able to have this kind of insight into it. And they made this movie this year, and the amount of like strictness or I don't know what the word is, the amount of like regimen they had to do, or discipline. Yes,
Yeah.
the amount of discipline that they portrayed and what they had to do for this movie is crazy.
Oh yeah.
it brought out really great performances because it's like speaking of discipline, like they're really doing those stunts. They're really doing like
Yeah.
physical acting, in this. It's a very physically demanding role to be in this film.
Overall, it's a solid story, and to me, that's what is a strong suit of the movie.
Yeah. And on I know we were talking about spectacle earlier. One of the spectacle movies that I absolutely hated, a general hate, like a strong rage against this movie is
okay.
Don't Worry, Darling.
Oh, interesting.
So bad.
I didn't
I
watch it.
Terrible.
wanted to bring it up when you said like, oh, like men is like get out for women. I feel like a lot of people were saying like the metaphor is that Don't Worry, Darling was trying to be like get out for white women.
Oh, for white.
I can see that. Have you guys watched it?
No, I didn't watch it.
It is
Just that's what I heard.
terribly
I was
executed.
interested in it until like all the drama about behind the movie came out, and then the news of the movie isn't even that great.
It is actually, you know what, it is very similar to Get Out for White Women, actually.
That's what I heard.
It is very true. Can I spoil it for you
Oh,
guys?
sure,
Are you guys
sure.
gonna watch it?
I don't
I
care.
don't
No,
care.
I spoiled it for
Probably not.
myself.
Harry
watch it.
Styles basically loves this woman so much, he traps her in this digital reality where she cannot come out of,
Whoa.
right?
It's a digital. So
It's like
I thought-
Matrix, dude.
Wait,
It's like,
I was confused. I thought the movie takes place like before technology.
that's the reality it is. That's the reality they're in.
It's
the
like
1950s, whatever.
AR. It's
dang.
VR. It's
Yeah.
VR, but against her will.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So it's
And so
it's
this
like
whole
legit,
time,
the
she's-
symbolism of
Yeah.
like they're trying to make modern women back into the 50s.
Oh,
But the
okay,
thing
I
is, like,
see.
he loves her so much that he traps her in here, and then you find out that all the women in this reality have been trapped against their will
Oh.
because they were listening to like this. Is it like an incel?
Incels, yeah.
Incel?
Yeah.
Like this-
Incel?
yeah, like
It's,
this.
it's a movie. They're all incels. Like the guys
Yes.
are all incels. So
Why are you laughing so much?
These are all the men that
They're
are in the
really
movie.
going hard. They really
Alright.
going hard. Incel.
Yeah.
yeah, pretty
They're
much.
really going hard.
So like you know they're all like perfectly coiffed in the trailer, and if you see like the images of like the real Harry Styles, he looks like an incel. You know,
Yeah.
He's like a sweaty like nerdy guy.
He's living off of cat food.
Oh my god.
And then he lays in bed next to what's her name? I forgot. Florence Pugh.
It sounds worse than men.
And yeah.
Oh shit.
And it's a terrible movie, guys. I hate it. I wish you guys could watch it so you could hate it more than men. Like maybe that's why. Okay. Another movie, also a spectacle, Crimes of the Future.
Ooh.
Did you
didn't watch
watched
that.
it?
I did, and I
Ugh.
didn't like it. But I did like Kristen Stewart's like
Performance.
performance. I just didn't like the movie.
I'm always afraid to watch like Cronenberg stuff because he's very into the whole body horror thing, and that's actually like one of my personal like bigger fears. Like first of all, gore is still very like hard for me to handle, and then body horror especially, like turning into like something you don't want to be, or like stuff about like the new flesh. So like that's why I like stayed away from it. But it's like it's even through all that, it's like still not worth it. Like
Yeah, like
even
I'm
if I were
fine.
to
I
get
love
over
gore.
those things.
Yeah, I love gore. I'm okay with body horror. Like it's good for me. I don't really care about it. It's just the storyline and the plot. It didn't make it. It just wasn't worth it. The movie, or maybe I didn't get it. Maybe it's not my type of movie. You know.
Yeah.
But he's made like a couple of other movies that I've watched that I liked, and I think he's coming out with a new one next year. that I'm interested in too, but I'm gonna have no expectations.
Is it like it's like horror, right? It's like thriller horror or what? Drama.
Yes, but I think
but
he
with horror
leans more
elements.
towards how body horror is like a kink, and that's
Interesting.
He's
it's-
always
this is
weird.
a love letter to people who enjoy body horror and who has like
Okay.
sexual gratification.
Okay.
Really?
With it, yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
That's like his
I
older
think you
movie.
mentioned something about
His
that
older
before.
movie
Yeah.
Crash was about like people who also like sexualize like being in like car accidents, and like that movie.
What?
That movie is like,
What?
yeah, that movie was like kind of ahead of its time. I feel like this has always
Ahead
been.
of its time.
I think this was more extreme.
Yeah,
though.
this was like that's always been his like shtick is like weird. like-
I think we should move on.
All right, but let me just say
Uh-huh.
it's in a world. It's based in a world where no one can feel anything anymore except when they're modifying their bodies or like feeling
I
that
see, I
pain,
see.
and that's where it comes from.
Ooh,
Maybe that's
okay.
why.
Yeah,
like-
he's always made a point to be like really transgressive, and I think, yeah, but whatever. I didn't see the film, so
I think that's why I don't
Yeah,
like it
yeah.
as much because it's not my thing, you know.
Yeah.
Do we want?
I'm gonna do one more like horror hate because I want to go into like some of the really good horror that came out this year. But I saw the last Halloween film, Halloween Ends.
Oh no.
Trash. Unfortunately, I think it's a good thing though. I think we should let Michael Myers rest and not make any more Halloween films. I think it was whatever.
Yeah.
End on that note, so we don't
I
have
think
to
we're
make
gonna
any
have
more.
to go a little bit more rapid fire with these if we want to get across our
Okay,
list.
I'm just
I'm
gonna.
just gonna say real quick, I hate She-Hulk. That's it. Okay.
Okay. Oh, see, oh man.
Okay.
wasn't that bad.
We'll do a separate one
I
for
liked
TV.
We're
it.
gonna do a separate.
Should we do a separate
Yeah.
one for TV?
Fine, we'll do a
We'll
separate
do separate
podcast
for
We've only
TV.
focused on movies.
I'm gonna
Okay,
do.
sure.
I'm gonna.
Because I'm gonna be on the other side of She-Hulk.
Yeah, I think.
we might have more discussions
That's
for TV,
funny.
but we'll
As,
focus
as
on
a
movies for
resident
now.
horror fan, I'm gonna do rapid fire for horror because we already have a different video about how good the horror from 2022 was this year. But both from Ty West, Pearl and X were great films. I think they're both A24, which is crazy. A24 had a bunch of good ones this year. We already mentioned Nope. Nope was great. Barbarian was a really great one. That one definitely turned the trope of like kind of like I guess haunted house type film on its head with like a really great kind of like serial killer type feel to it. Sorry, Barbarian. Was there another one? Oh yeah, I watched Terrifier 2 recently. If you're a fan of gore, I implore you to check it out. It's super gory. It's all practical effects, which is like really cool and disgusting to look at. Made me feel really gross afterwards. But if you're into gore, Terrifier 2 is definitely like a
gonna
really
watch
fun
it.
one. And Prey. Prey can be considered horror. I think
Yeah,
kind of
Yeah,
horror,
that was cool.
sci-fi horror thriller. Prey was amazing. It was one of my favorites of the year. So yeah.
On the topic of horror, I think Bones and All can be considered horror too.
I wanted to watch that. That was on my
I didn't
list.
get.
I haven't gotten to
I
it
didn't
yet.
get to it.
It's not my favorite, but
Okay.
it is
Good enough.
okay. It's good enough. Yeah, it's good enough. Not my favorite, but it's good enough.
I'm gonna shouts out 2 more for Spectacle too. Last night I wanted, because I knew we were gonna do a wrap, I wanted to fit in 2 that were on my list. So I watched 13 Lives, which is about the divers that saved all that Thai soccer team that was stuck in a cave. That was amazing. Ron Howard killed it. It definitely, you felt like the claustrophobia and the tension and how high the stakes were to save those kids. That was a great one. And then I also saw the Bollywood movie RRR.
Yes.
That one was sick. Like if you were into camp and
Yeah.
like over the top action and dancing and
If you want to see
singing.
one guy beat up 10,000 other dudes,
If you want to see,
This is straight anime right here.
it is
So
it is
much
anime.
live
It's
action
so
anime.
dramatic. The
Okay, I'm
dialogue
down
is
for
so
that.
corny. The British people look so bad. Like there's literally mustache twirling villains.
Yeah.
They're so
Oh,
evil.
perfect.
It
I
is
love it.
the worst kind of propaganda. will hate
Perfect.
British people after this
I
film.
already hate British people.
And no, you're gonna.
He's joking. He's
Shuku.
joking.
Cut that out.
Chugu, you guys watch RRR. It's so fun, and it's like, dude, you see them dance, and you're like, how? These actors are so talented. Like
It's
they're
so
literally
good. The
they
dance
go from
scene, there's a whole dance sequence.
there's
in
multiple
Bollywood for
there's
you.
multiple.
I get it.
All right, you guys are selling it.
All right,
We're selling.
rapid
We're
fire.
selling.
But I just gotta say,
I get it.
when you go from like actually legit pretty good fight choreo to then dance choreo, it's I mean it's
looking
amazing.
Someone gets a tiger thrown at them.
And
It's so good.
and on that
Yeah.
same level, the last big spectacle I have to say is Top Gun.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
just gonna
yeah.
mic drop
But
there.
I'm
We don't
glad
even
it's
have
gonna
to.
take it.
I mean, enough said.
Yeah, I think Top Gun needs to be said because the person who showed me Top Gun also showed me Men, and Top Gun was the redemption for that.
That's funny.
That's Felicia.
Top Gun was great.
So yeah, it was
I
amazing. about
can't wait
that.
for them to re-release it because I'm sure they're going to.
But-
Because I gotta watch it in 4DX. Because anything that pushes film forward, and I know like they had to create new cameras to get those aerial shots in the planes, like that excites me. I think they did something similar for Nope, where like Jordan Peele worked with Hoyte van Hoytema, like that Oscar-winning, I guess, cinematographer, and to get those great night shots. That stuff excites me. Like keep pushing film forward. You know.
Yeah. If I have to mention some honorable mentions that I thought were good this year, I thought the Sonic movie was good this year. Made me look forward to the third one. You know, All Hail
Sonic.
Shadow the Hedgehog. And then the big one for me would have to be another big one was Bullet Train.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Bullet
I
Train
was
Bullet Train
great.
was fun.
Yeah, I was skeptical about that movie, but then when I came in, I was like widely surprised. It's a good example of setup and payoff. Everything is
Yeah.
just perfectly set up and paid off.
That movie is good. I really like Bullet Train.
Yeah.
Same.
I'm glad you mentioned Sonic because another great family film, Puss in Boots, blew me away. Like actually, DreamWorks, like good job. It's on the level of like Shrek 2.
Ooh.
That's how
Oh,
good.
snap.
The pacing was tight. The dialogue was super funny and clever. The action, like, it's actually kind of funny. People on Twitter are like, dude, there has to be like an anime fan or a Souls game fan on the team because the action is like so good for no reason.
Really?
The songs are great. The voice acting's great. There's heart. There's action. There's fun. Yeah,
Gotta
I
check it out now.
recommend.
Gotta
Yeah.
check it out.
Exactly. It sounds like an anime right there.
literally
I have
is. The
two honorable
frames-
mentions, or actually I have three. One in the romance category. There weren't a lot of. I think there were romance movies, but they're not being made as well these days because they're not blockbuster movies. But one of them that came out that I didn't think that I would watch was Bros, and I watched it last night,
Oh, interesting.
and it was actually really good and really funny.
You liked it?
Yeah, I did like it. Did you watch it?
No, I watched Fire Island. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't know what that
that's
is.
That's another LGBT like great romance film. You just reminded me of it because I really liked that one.
Yeah, I did like this one.
I think I'll check out Bros because I heard like mixed reviews, but
There was a lot of
I'll check it out.
funny like commentary, funny references that I think you would get that you'd probably.
okay, I'm
like.
excited. I'm gonna watch it.
My other honorable mention is The Menu. That
Oh,
one was
yeah,
also
that was a good
like
one.
yeah, a satirical like a play on foodies, people who love
Right.
food and whatnot.
Yeah.
And my last honorable mention is The Violent Night. Or Violent
I
Night.
watched that too. That
It was great.
fun.
It was John Wick but Santa Claus, and I'm not mad about
David
it.
Harbour killed it. He's an amazing Santa Claus, and also I think slept on Action Star. I think more roles for David Harbour. He's great.
Nice. Nobody mentioned Turning Red. Came out this year.
No, it was okay. for me.
Turning Red was good. I
was
liked
good.
Turning Red. I actually did like that one a lot. There was a lot of movies about maternal trauma this year. I mean, even in Kanto, Everything Everywhere Counts. You know, it's all really interesting that all the new filmmakers are kind of wanting
What did
to.
mothers do to you
I think
guys?
I think they want the filmmakers now are like kind of like exploring those complicated relationships and wanting to give us closure through like this art, and like I appreciate it.
Yeah, and then one of the other ones that I don't know if anybody else watched, I don't think anyone else watched, was Emily the Criminal. It's on Netflix, and it is Aubrey Plaza.
Is it good?
It's really good. I really enjoyed it. It's basically about this girl with student debt who has to figure out a way to pay off her student debt, and like the world keeps beating her down until she becomes a criminal.
Aubrey Plaza. She's having a hell of a year.
Yeah, she is.
She's in White Lotus too. Yeah.
We might talk about that in our TV discussion.
Yeah, everyone pretty much mentioned anything I would have mentioned. So
Yeah.
we're good on the movies.
I
Best
haven't
and
watched
worst.
Avatar
I'm
yet.
content.
So
Yeah.
I expect it.
You haven't watched? Yeah, no. Can you tell us when you watch Puss in Boots, or like all of you? Tell me when
I'm
you
gonna watch it
Okay.
Puss in
today.
Boots.
So that's our best and worst of 2022. Join us in our next episode discussion for TV. But if you enjoyed the video, go ahead and give it a like, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.